So this week there was quite a bit of discussion about rule changes in some of our major professional sports, NFL, NHL, talking a lot about head injuries and helmets and changing things, because head injuries, as we are beginning to understand finally, are very, very dangerous and serious. And the NFL is changing its crown rule.
Yeah, they're calling it anyways, the crown rule. On your helmet, right up on top where a crown would sit, is called the crown of the helmet. And now running backs in the open field can't hit defending players with that part of their helmet. That's one way, of course, of basically going through a defender, because you're down low and you're driving right through that defender, and you're using your helmet as kind of your shield, right? Which is unfair, because that defensive player has to stand up and be in position to hit you, and he can't do it back to you. So now the rule, like I'll get off of this right away, move more to visors, but the rule is you can hit them with your face mask and the hairline of your helmet, but not the crown of your helmet.
Isn't that infinitely more dangerous?
I think so, but apparently not. And it also makes officiating it a nightmare, because like, oh no, that was more the hairline of his helmet. But anyways, and then you mentioned that it was in the NHL too. They're talking about making visors mandatory. It's something that they would grandfather in so any players that, I would guess, let's say hypothetically the rule started now, anybody in junior hockey coming in to the NHL would have to wear a visor.
Why grandfather that in? Why even grandfather that in?
With that rule, it's something that the NHLPA, like the Players Association, has to agree with. And there's a lot of guys that are dead set in their ways. Like, you think when helmets even first came in, they had to grandfather that in, because there are players that are just so set that if they put a visor on, it changes.
Well, they're
Randy Carlyle.
Randy Carlyle with their locks flowing in the wind.
There you go.
Screw you, safety.
Yeah. So exactly, same kind of deal. They want to get visors grandfathered in. The NHLPA still got to comment on it, but there's a few guys that have come out and said, this is something that we'll take a look at. Grandfathering it in isn't so bad, because these players from minor hockey, they're wearing full face shield. They get to major junior hockey, your WHL, your even the MJHL here in the city, you're wearing visors. So I don't understand. You've been playing it with it your whole life. You get to the NHL. I mean, I guess there's a novelty to taking it off, but you can talk to a lot of players, including I guess Mark Stahl this year, puck in the eye.
Well, that's just why wouldn't you why not wear a cage? I don't
Some people say it affects your peripheral vision. I mean, back when I know, but when you're playing for millions of dollars, and I guess this year wouldn't have been a great time to bring it in because of the short training camp and such. If you were putting a visor on, you don't have a lot of time to adjust to it. So I would guess this would have been a tough year to do it, but I mean, it's a player safety issue, really.
It just doesn't look as cool.
That's what I was going to say. Not wearing a visor is like smoking cigarettes. It's not quite as safe, but you look awesome. This is going to be somewhat controversial, maybe, but I don't think they should regulate that at all. I don't even think they should regulate helmets. I think it should be up to each player. These guys are making so much money. If they are stupid enough to choose not to wear a helmet, let them.
Survival of the fittest.
Well, not really. It's maybe the battle of the survival of the smartest.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's be honest. These guys aren't getting into hockey because they're, Mensa candidates.
But if hockey, hockey has proven to be dangerous in the past few years because of head injuries and whatnot, right? So why not just make hockey illegal? If we're letting them risk themselves a little bit, why not let them risk themselves a lot? I'm just saying.
Seriously?
Yeah, I seriously think that.
The teams that are pouring money into these players and paying them have something to say about that, just because they're investing this amount of money. So they want these players to be safe. It's the same reason why there's, they're close in terms of the NHL going to the Olympics in 2014, but it's the general managers, the owners wanting to make sure that those players that they've poured all that money into have the facilities they need overseas. It's not a bother in Canada or the States, because they know all these facilities are up to code and up to NHL standard. Overseas, maybe not so much, but I mean, it's a matter of.
I think you let them. I think the league has to save them from themselves. It's like with smoking. People know it's bad. People know it causes cancer, and they do it anyway. So the government has to legislate, sure, but the government has to legislate to some degree to save people from themselves. Otherwise,
I guess that's what I'm getting at, though. I find it ridiculous that they would have to regulate. I think it's ridiculous that they would have to regulate this at all. I mean, why do these people not care about their own safety?
Well, because people don't, you can't assume that everyone is smart enough to take, head injuries cause brain damage, causes early death. Not everyone's smart enough to extrapolate that. And I think that, especially when you've got bigger, stronger, faster, people want to do whatever they can to be the best player. I think the league has a responsibility to save these guys from themselves.
I think to some extent the whole argument of like, I can't see with the visor on is
stupid.
Yeah, I don't think it's the real argument. I don't think that's what they really think. I think what they really think is my friends in the league aren't going to think I'm tough if I wear one. And I think that is completely
if everybody's
ridiculous.
got to wear one.
Well, and I think that the idea of if you're going to change it, the grandfathering thing does make sense to me in that, in terms of making things stick, it is a culture change. I remember I cycled all my whole life, and I've always worn a helmet. My friends used to make fun of me like crazy for wearing my helmet.
Well,
now it's just like people are like, you're an idiot if you don't wear a helmet when you're cycling amongst cars.
For sure.
But yeah, 15 years ago, for sure, people are still making fun of it. Tobogganing, there's been lots of questions even just along that, like should you be putting helmets on your kids, just skating or tobogganing, things like that. I still don't, but I guess I should, and I think there's more people thinking about it. And if kids grow up with that, then as you grandfather it in, it just becomes
But that's just it. The helmet, like that, I think is the perfect example. Most people didn't. You did. You chose to. You were smart enough to know to do that. Eventually, it had to become a law because people weren't being smart enough without being told to do it. Right? So I think the same thing. You've got a bunch of guys who want to be cool and tough in hockey or whatever. Say, well, you can choose. You don't. Of course, they're not going to wear one. I mean.
But I think, Mitch, you touched on what's actually going on here. It's the investment of the owners. It's not the safety of the players. They could care less about the safety of the players. I mean, it's their
Players
investment.
Association that cares about the safety of the players, and then it's the board of governors that probably maybe care a little bit more about the money side of it.
Mark Chipman would disagree with you.
What I'm saying is the money aspect of it comes into the minds of the owners more than it would the players, right? Like Mark Chipman, of course, cares about the players that he has, definitely, but the players that are on the ice aren't thinking necessarily about say ownership up here that has X amount of dollars poured into this player, into this player, into this player. Mark maybe has that a little bit more on his mind.
He is, yes, admittedly, he's a different kind of owner than a lot out there.
Right, absolutely. Sure. I loved his double fist bump in Toronto when they beat the Leafs. I loved that. That was awesome.
I just think it's just general protection across the board, and I do believe that the owners are looking out for the safety of their players too. I mean, I do. They're not all evil.
No, I'm not saying they're evil. I'm just saying the bottom line for them is
this is a business.
Yeah.
You're talking about a business. If you're paying to have this player be on your team, you're going to want them to be playing at their best. And if they're all punch drunk, they're not playing their best. So
there's a great commercial though, Bobby Orr quickly for helmets, and it's all these little kids eating breakfast with their helmet, playing piano on the toilet with their helmet. And I think that's the big thing, is create that environment at an early age, and there will be no.
Well, that's not the issue here. That environment has been created when you play hockey at an early age. You're wearing a helmet, and I think that's great. Don't get me wrong. I don't think helmets should be optional for anyone, but
stupid.
No. Like, I think anyone is stupid not to wear a helmet. But I mean, back in the day when goalies didn't even wear helmets, like that was just insane. That was like the sign of a mental health problem right there, for sure.
All right. Well, we got to get back to work, folks. So everybody have a good day. Thank you for the donuts, Kim.
Thank you.